Alright, welcome boys and girls. It is time for something that has been a long time coming on this channel, and that is a fully developed team of 6 Pokemon being used on the same team that were intended to actually, work together. I've been playing this game since, 2007, I guess? And, more seriously, since 2008. And, this is the first ever team I have ever bred to use together. So, what this video is going to be about is just revealing this team and some of the thought process and decisions and some of the guiding principles that went into the development of this team, and hope you enjoy. Alright, first we're going to talk about some of the origins of this team and a couple of the guiding principles that were attempted to be followed during the creation of it. So, this all started back in either fall, winter 2010 or spring 2011 when someone on TPX, now TPXC, PC'd me and asked me what a good partner for a Gliscor was. I thought, weight to water and ice, so probably going to be some sort of water type. Didn't really think about it too hard at first, and then I scrolled on Cerebi or wherever, looking at differently typed water guys, and I look at Empoleon and I'm like, that might be pretty good. And then I look at the types a little bit closer and realize, oh hey, that's actually like a perfect walling combo. Everything that one's weak to, the other resists. That's pretty handy. So that kind of festers in my mind for a couple months, and then cut to Xerxes' March Madness team reveal video. That big video that had a lot more in it than just that. But the team reveal part was definitely my favorite. That looked like it was a lot of fun to do, and I really enjoyed watching it. So from there, the idea kind of took off that maybe instead of just using these guys as a recurring pair that I'd use from game to game, maybe I'll actually make a real team, something I have never done, ever. At least not for Wi-Fi. So from there, the idea to just actually make 6 new guys, then it was going to be 6 new guys. I wasn't going to recycle someone that, we've seen before on this channel. It was going to be 6 new guys. And also around that time, well actually, I guess now cut to summer 2011, when this really starts to take off, I actually start adding new guys to the team. And some of the guiding principles and things I knew I was going to do for this team. Now, the number one thing was I wanted to use new Pokemon as much as possible. Obviously the core of the team I knew at that point was going to be Gliscor and Empoleon, both of whom I have used. Probably Gliscor more so. Empoleon and it never got to be anything but just a beta, who has I don't even think he has any 31s. But anyway, so outside those two, I knew I wanted to use primarily new guys that I had never used before. And I also knew from the outset that this team was going to be my first big foray into using RNG to breed. But I'll save the discussion of that for a future Breeding Grounds episode, I suppose. But those were just 2 of the things I knew I was going to do for this team. And if I couldn't use a new guy that I'd never used before, I wanted to make sure to use a different set with him. And, just something besides that I had already used before. That made no sense. But anyways, either a new guy or a significantly different set, to the extent that that would be feasible. So I think that pretty much covers the overview of the team and some of the principles. And let's now jump into the character-by-character analysis, as we're going to do those in the order they were added to the team, so we'll get to kind of see the evolution of this team as it went through my mind. And we begin with Shademan the Gliscor. So this is the perfect example of a guy that I had already used before to pretty good success. My other Shademan, which is of course female, has a fairly standard set of Knockoff, Roost, and the ever so nice combo of EQ and Ice Fang. So I wanted so bad to use EQ and Ice Fang, and throughout this entire series I wished I had had EQ and Ice Fang in so many games. But because of those, nope, I gotta be a little bit different about it. I opted, nope, I gotta use something else. So one of the moves I wanted to put on him to use was Counter, because I thought, that's a pretty good move to put on a physical wall that can recover itself. And he's got a decent HP score, so he can take a hit. One of the ideas was to use him against, say, like a dragon who was stuck in Outrage. I believe that he's max defense. I think I think he's got a little bit of speed, perhaps. but mostly defense, so he should be able to live, you know, a +1 Dragon Dance Outrage and counter that back. I guess that's also a good time to point out a caveat here that, as you guys know from my channel, I freely welcome Garchomp and Salamence to be used against me. I don't care. Although I don't think over the course of the series, I don't even know if Dragonite got used against me a single time, but he might have. But anyway, I think if it was Dragonite, if anyone, for dragons, as far as dragon, you know, the big dragons go anyway. So, I knew he was going to have counter, which I think required a Heracross breed. But anyway, so the attack combo I went up going with, obviously we gotta have Roost on Gliscor, is I ended up going with his other lesser used stab, which is Aerial Ace. And so I was looking at things I could pair with that, and Ice Fang wasn't going to be too bad, but I knew I wanted something to at least be able to hit Steel types neutrally, and if I wasn't going to have Earthquake, well, I took a page out of Gyarados' book, and Aqua Tail from the Platinum Tutors looked to be the next best option, I suppose. It also kind of had the nice thing that both of these had the same effective base power. If both of them were hitting, well, I shouldn't say base power. Both of them had the same power if they were both hitting neutrally. Aerial Ace gaining up from 60 to 90 with stab, and then Aqua Tail being just flat out 90 without stab. So that would just make things a little bit quicker to decide in battle. As far as his IVs and EVs go, let's see what he has here. He's got, yeah, he's just defensively invested. He does have 58 speed, which I forget exactly who that was meant to outspeed. Probably a Breloom, just because, you know, Aerial Ace is a guaranteed Breloom kill. I don't care. Frankly, Ice Fang, well, Ice Fang might kill, but Aerial Ace definitely a Breloom killer. So I think I wanted to make sure he was faster than at least most Breloom, probably Ada Breloom, maybe Jolly Breloom, not sure. But yeah, so his point was to take most of the physical hits. In practice, he wound up being, I would say, fairly large disappointment. He didn't seem like he ever got to do much. Without Earthquake, his offensive output was just, it sucked. I think Aerial Ace came in handy in one game. Aqua Tail got some neutral hits when otherwise I might have gotten you know, like maybe they were expecting Earthquake, and instead I got to at least hit them for some damage instead of none. But all in all, just I don't know, he didn't work out nearly as well as I was hoping. He certainly did his job of taking hits, but he was definitely not able to dish any back. So now we're going to cut to his partner in Walling, which would be Waveman the Empoleon, another guy I've already used before, but we wanted to come up with a different set for this. So, I wanted to take a couple of pages out of Xerxes' Gobi's book, but ultimately didn't really take much outside of the Aqua Jet on there, just for some additional priority. You know, if I get knocked down low enough, Torrent might be able to help it do some considerable damage. And this guy does get one very notable thing about him, and that would be this is the first guy ever I bred that has all 31s, because he wants to use all 6 of those stats. He's got mixed offenses. I wanted to keep him a little bit ahead of, I believe, Swampert. I believe Empoleon, Swampert, and I think Whiscash as well. They all have the same base speed, so I wanted to throw some considerable speed investment in there, and maybe outspeed some other things as well. But that's because of his other attacking move, which is Grass Knot. Empoleon does have pretty high special attack, but doing calcs and stuff, I knew right from the get-go it wasn't going to be a one-hit KO on any kind of Swampert. It was probably going to be a 2-hit KO at the very best. So I knew I wasn't going to expect much, but you know, if I ever got someone down low enough, it could be decent. I also heavily considered Ice Beam for that slot instead. Especially because, you know, of outraging dragons. Empoleon is a steel type after all. However, being the special wall on the team, I wasn't expecting him to take too many of the physical hits. So his last 2 moves were just something I wanted to have on the team in the form of Yawn and Protect. I wanted to have some sort of sleeping, some sort of pseudo-hazing. So Yawn provides both of those. I guess that's pseudo-hazing. But Yawn provides that, and Protect. Empoleon doesn't have a reliable recovery move, unlike his partner Gliscor. So Protect is essentially his recovery move. It gets me back 1/16 of my life, as you know, even if Sand is up, and Also might help the toxic style if something is toxic. Just a all-around good move. Works and also pairs very well with Yawn for making sure that guy either leaves or is going to get slept. One of the two. So his nature, I wound up picking Calm because I figured, Aqua Jet's really only ever going to get used when something is so low on 8 HP that a couple points less attack is not going to matter too much. Whereas I wanted to have as much special attack as possible to use with Grass Knot. And clearly on a wall, I'm not going to sacrifice special defense or defense. And because I was actively going to give him some speed EVs, I wasn't going to do a minus speed nature as well. So it wound up being Calm. And I still wound up using Aqua Jet many times, hoping that it could do a little bit better damage than it was. So the damage output from that was really, really bad. I don't think Calm was necessarily the cause of that, but anyway. That pretty much wraps up the primary walling duo, and one of the big problems that I noted very shortly after I started planning these guys out is that if someone has the ever so common pairing of Thunderbolt and Ice Beam, well, I can switch between those all day, sure. Empoleon takes 4th damage from Ice, and Gliscor is immune to Electric. But if I ever make the wrong switch, someone is gonna get rolled. So I knew that I had to have somebody who could take Ice Beam and Thunderbolt users on, and that leads us into Magnet Man. Predictably enough, a Magnezone. Certainly could have gone with Lantern here, but I felt like Magnezone gave me some other nice utility in the form of a Steel Trapper, which I haven't had in the past, so I thought that would be a nice thing to put on here. Also, this is the first guy who I haven't used before, so it's also going to be my first experience really using a Magnezone. As far as his moveset goes, or I guess as far as his overall setup goes, he's certainly not a conventional Magnezone. Bold nature I don't think I've seen too much of at all, but Magnezone certainly has a very respectable defense stat, and with the barrier, that can sharply raise that defensive stat, I figured, that's going to be pretty nice. The reason I thought about Barrier initially was Magnet Rise Magnezone, I know can, he can come in, he can get rid of his Earthquake weakness, he can kill something off, and now they have to answer him with something that's not Earthquake. But I thought a little bit more about that, and I realized, if I can trap someone in there, why would I just want to get rid of my Earthquake weakness for 5 turns, when I can get rid of the Earthquake weakness, that being the 4 times damage, forever if I can just set up 3 barriers, which obviously quadruples his defense stat and mitigates that quadruple damage that he takes from Earthquake. So now he's going to be taking normal damage from Earthquake and a lot less from every other physical hit. Once he gets those 3 barriers set up, you pretty much need to send in something with some Flamethrower, Earth Power, or Aura Sphere, something to really take him out. As far as his offense goes, I could absolutely never argue with T-Bolt, especially as I plan to spread a lot of poison and toxic on this team. I don't really want Discharge getting an errant paralysis. And for hidden power, this one I had to think about for a while. And ultimately, I think it was the decision that, I am planning on facing dragons, so I think I want Ice. Overall, Ice, I think, was the better choice. There were certainly a couple of games where, I wish I had Grass against, Gastrodons and other things. But ultimately, I think I was glad I had Ice more than I regretted not having Grass. So I suppose that was fine. For his last move, that was a tough one too. Between Substitute and Rest. Rest played in a lot more on the situation where, I've got this Fortress or this Skarmory without Whirlwind, or and Fortress without Explosion, I suppose. Even if the Fortress has EQ. I've got this guy trapped in here. I can barrier, throw up 3 barriers and survive stuff. That was sort of what his EV spread was geared toward. With his EVs being, max HP, about 150 defense, and then he actually has a lot of EVs spread all over the place. He's got a little bit in special attack, special defense, and some speed. I think the special attack and special D were there for some cosmetic values, as we'll see the level 100 values in the video here. But that would be nice to be able to get back up to full after I've got my 6 barriers, as opposed to being, you know, under half probably, even with lefties, because even with the 6 barriers, EQ is still going to do way more than lefties is healing, so, you know, that was a consideration. But substitute, just as a fail-safe, and in case, you know, well, I don't get to do the whole barrier thing, you know, just sub-Magnezone is so good, because, you know, he comes in on something, especially if it's something he traps in there and just says, ha, I kill this thing. But not only does he, ha, I kill this thing, he now has a sub, and you can't simply revenge kill him. You've got to kill the sub, maybe lose your guy you used to kill the sub, and then still revenge kill off that. So I've always feared and valued sub-Magnezone, so that's why Substitute eventually won out, just for overall utility in probably every game, even if he didn't get to do the whole trap and barrier thing. In the end, I don't think he ever actually got to do the trap and barrier thing. I think I got to use barrier maybe in 2 games. So it didn't work as intended, but I still would love to, you know, get it to work at some point. So at this point, I've got my 2 walling pair. I got my walling pair, and I've got my tertiary guy who kind of supports them and handles their Volt Beam weakness. What I don't have at this point that I need is a lead, and I absolutely am terrible at leads. I'll just lead with whatever, I don't care. In a normal game on a given day. So, but for this team, I knew I needed something that was actually intended to lead, and being so horribly inexperienced at lead, I decided to look to some inspiration for what I was going to use to lead. And that inspiration would be, straight from the March Madness series, lead Nidoqueen. Originally, I didn't want to copy the set, you know, move for move, EV for EV, but in the end, I think I ended up going with, I believe, exactly the same moveset, because I knew I needed some Stealth Rock, because every match I don't set up Stealth Rock, I always regret it. You know, at the very least, it forces them to come in and spin at some point, and I can, you know, predict that and try to call their bluff and hit their Starmie as they spin, while I've got something in that fears, you know, a T-Bolt or a Surf. And I think I actually did successfully do that at least once. But I also knew that I had to have Toxic Spikes, and a lead that sets up Stealth Rock and Toxic Spikes, it's hard to do any better than Nidoqueen. She's, I believe, the bulkiest, and she's got some speed on her as well to outspeed some things. So I knew I had to have Stealth Rock and Toxic Spikes. I just love Super Fang. I always have, always will. But interestingly enough, in these battles, Super Fang never really came in handy over Earthquake. I think in almost every other every battle, I think I would have rather had Earthquake, because there were a lot of guys that, you know, they're gonna be able to recover later with Recover, Roost, whatever, and Super Fang is just not really gonna get me anything here. Ultimately, I still went with it anyway, though. But you know, in retrospect, might have changed that over to Earthquake or some other move, perhaps maybe even like Poison Jab to poison some things that fly. For the 4th move, I didn't want to go with Taunt. I wanted to go with Crunch. But, you know, I've never been a big Taunt user. You know, I guess my feeling is that, oh, here's something that I want to taunt. It's going to lead off Stealth Rock. Or, oh, here's a Gyarados. It's going to Dragon Dance. You know, I've always wished there was some sort of, like, Provoke ability, where, like, the turn you switch in, you get a Taunt on them, you know, just for that one turn. But, unfortunately, 5th Gen, you let me down. There is no Provoke ability. Come on, 6th Gen. You know, I didn't want to go with Taunt, but I figured, you know, I've never used it. I'll give it a chance. You know, I certainly know it has utility against a bunch of guys that are so-called taunt bait, guys that, you know, run 4 non-attacking moves. They're just there for purely support. And it certainly can ruin some guys. I just wasn't sure how often I would use it. But, you know, at the same time, I don't really expect to use much with her except for Stealth Rock and Toxic Spike, so, you know, at least it'll be some utility that I have available to me, even if I never want to use it. As far as her EVs and stuff go, since she's not using either attack stat in the end, a new Impish or Bold would be fine. I still kind of hung on to the thought of Crunch to pair with Super Fang, or maybe just Earthquake. So I ended up going with Impish for that, but I ended up evolving her before I had made any decision to change from that. For her EVs, just max HP, quite a bit of defense, and I believe I put some speed in there. Not 100% sure what I intended to outspeed, maybe I can annotate that. But just 80 speed in there just to give her some speed and get the jump on some guys that I might want to try to pull a taunt on. Maybe it might have been Gyarados, some variants of Gyarados, I don't know, maybe like a bulky Gyarados. But anyway, that was what was going on with her. And of course, Poison Point is always nice to get the occasional Poison Point activation to trigger on like lead Ambipom or some dude like that. That's always pretty nice. And I want to think that may have actually happened one time for Poison Point triggered on their lead, and it was kind of nice. But anyway, so now we've got the lead in place, and got to start looking into things that I need to go to round out the team. I look over and I see, okay, I've got 3 guys who are primarily going to be walls. Magnezone has a decent amount of offense. Tron is just going to be the lead. I need something to kill things. So, when you're looking at Mega Man guys who can break walls, who better to use than the next guy? There's an infamous boss in Mega Man 2 who, if you don't have this guy's weapon, you are not going to be beating this boss. And that guy is Crashman. This is absolutely the perfect name for Lucario for me, because he's got spikes on his hands, and what does he do? He breaks walls. So, I knew I wanted to have some sort of a wall breaker, and my first turn to Blaziken, but since, I had already copied one Pokemon from Xerxes' team, essentially, I didn't really want to copy another one. So, it kind of turned to a big debate here for these last 2 guys between, I knew I wanted one wall breaker and then just one guy to round everything out. So it was either going to be Infernape or Lucario. Infernape being, a faster but slightly weaker Blaziken, to which I could have, slacked off on the speed EVs and given him more attack EVs. And Lucario just being built extremely similarly to Blaziken. He's a little bit faster, a little bit weaker on the offensive side, and their defenses are roughly the same. At this point, I also realized, at this point I've got 3 guys already who are, or 5 guys already actually, who are all immune to sandstorms. So that's kind of nice. And also, I've also got 3 of them, with Shademan being the exception, that all resist Stealth Rock. So at this point, I've got, I don't care about sand, I don't care about Stealth Rock. That's kind of nice things to be able to not care about in a team. So. For not being able to worry about sand or really Stealth Rock, only taking an eighth damage from it, which would be 1/32 of his HP. I ended up going with Crashman. Another big reason for this was I knew obviously he's going to be a wall breaker. It's going to be mixed with Life Orb. I started looking into a move that he usually doesn't use because he's got kind of his signature move that's much better in 99% of cases, which is Aura Sphere. So I started looking into Focus Blast and how much Focus Blast can do. And the ultimate winning decision for going with Lucario over Infernape was Focus Blast. I did a calc, and on most versions, most physically oriented anyway, versions of Skarmory and Fortress, Focus Blast with Life Orb and Max Special Attack is a one-hit KO. A one-hit KO. And I felt like, if I've got Infernape out there, they are not going to switch into a Skarmory or a Fortress because they know a fire move can just come and hit them. With a Lucario, they might be more afraid of Swords Dance and a physical one, so they're going to be more inclined to send their physical wall into this guy, who little do they know is going to be able to one-shot their physical wall with Focus Blast. And I believe this did happen one time and made me go, I was so happy it happened. I think it was against Makar with his Skarmory, but I'm not sure. So obviously, Focus Blast was there. Because of that, being able to sneakily kill a Skarm or a Fori, either one. I think Fori actually was a little bit closer of a kill. But just because of that reason, where Infernape would pose a clear threat, while Lucario, I'd be able to kind of hide that and get a cheap kill on something. That's why Lucario eventually won out. So, moving on to what moves we chose for him. I knew because of his the way I had to have max special attack, I knew it was going to be Rash with max special attack, so I was just content to put however much attack EVs I needed in there for a Blissey killing close combat, which wound up to be 82, and then just however much speed was left, and I think 176 speed EVs wound up being fast enough. It outsped some things that I wanted to outspeed, and I think to outspeed anything else, I would have had to throw significantly more speed in there. So it just wound up being a nice EV spread all around. I got enough attack to kill Bliss, I got my max special attack that I required, and I got enough speed to outspeed some things that I wanted to outspeed. So for his last two moves, you know, I've already got two fighting moves in the form of Focus Blast and Close Combat. I kind of need something to pair well with those. So I debated between... Well, first off, I had to pick his priority move. I guess we'll talk about that first. I wanted it to be a physical priority move over... you know, I wasn't going to run Vacuum Wave, certainly, because I've already got, you know, two fighting moves. I don't want to run three. So, you know, Vacuum Wave is right out. So that left Extreme Speed or Bullet Punch. Extreme Speed has a bit more power edge, but Bullet Punch does carry some stab, and also is able to hit Gengar and other ghost types that I might want to be able to hit with that. So ultimately, Bullet Punch ran out just so that I didn't have, you know, three moves that can't hit Ghost. That's a little bit for me. So Bullet Punch went out there. And I wanted him to be kind of straight mix, you know, 2 physical, 2 special. So that meant his last move was definitely going to be a special move. And it was probably going to be a special move anyway, so that he could combat guys like Dusknoir and not have to care as much about Will-O-Wisp, at least, you know, initially while he was fighting Dusknoir. And so it was either going to be Shadow Ball or Dark Pulse. So I thought about these for a long time. I debated like a whole day while doing other things. Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse, which of the chances to happen do I like better? Do I like the special defense drop, which is a 20% on Shadow Ball, which is a little bit better than some other things, or do I like the 10% flinch on Dark Pulse? I thought, you know, then I thought about the whole Bliss Noir walling combo, or Noir Bliss, whatever. And I thought, you know, with fighting and Ghost, it's a sweet, completely unresisted combo. You know, fighting Dark gets resisted by, I believe, like Hera and Toxicroak. But, you know, it does carry the possibility, if they've got a normal and a Ghost type they can switch between, they can kind of just wall me all day and just gain lefties. But ultimately, his item played a role in the decision there with Life Orb. I realized that, you know, if Blissey comes in, I don't want to even hit it with Dark Pulse. Because if I hit it with Dark Pulse, I'm going to take more damage from Life Orb than I'm going to deal to it. So I'd rather just Shadow Ball, you know, it doesn't do anything, and therefore I don't take any Life Orb recoil, and just save my Lucario's hit points. So that was kind of the slam dunk for Shadow Ball. It just provided unresisted coverage, and avoided that scenario with, well, I did a bad move against a normal type, so I'm going to pay, you know, some hit points for it when I wish I could have just, you know, not taken any damage that turn whatsoever. So, at this point, I've got my Wall Breaker, I've got my lead, I've got my walling triad there, and I got to turn to one more guy who can just kind of support everyone else, and that's going to be another person, another Pokemon that I have meant to make for a long time, and she has been a long time coming as well. The much ballyhooed Splash Woman from Mega Man 9 made quite a splash when the Mega Man 9 first was announced and she was revealed, and certainly made a splash in a lot of battles with this team. Just not necessarily specific to this team, but overall I just have a huge issue with water types and water types on offense. Looking at this team, I already saw I had Needle Queen and Shade Man, who are weak to water, Magnet Man and Crash Man. Well, Crash Man's not going to take any hits anyway. Magnet Man doesn't resist water. I do have, you know, Empoleon to resist water, and which that was also another slight purpose of Empoleon, was to kill bulky waters. You know, ideally have them toxic and Grass Knot. But you know, I needed someone to. I still felt like I needed more water, anti-water guys to use. And with Water Absorb, Vaporeon quickly came to the forefront of the discussion. Another thing that I had to choose also in this last slot between two utilities that I really wanted, which was either a Spinner or a Wish Supporter. Looking at the guys I already have, I sort of, you know, chose those guys so that Stealth Rock is not a big concern to me. And also looking at those guys, every one of them is immune to Toxic Spikes. So I don't care about Stealth Rock, I don't care about Toxic Spikes. So that leaves just regular spikes for something that concerns me. So regular spikes are not carried on every team, you know, unlike Stealth Rock is there on 95% of teams. So, I was like, well, spin is probably not going to be something that I absolutely have to have every match, and which also brings me to another thing that I've wanted for a long time, which is a guy who can wish support. So, you know, I look at what's a nice water type that can wish support. Well, in 4th gen, there is only water resist, I should say. What is a water resistant guy that can give me wish? There is exactly one guy in 4th gen OU, or that is to say standard, not Uber, just to discount Latias, that can do that, and that is Vaporeon. We get Alomomola in 5th, but this is 4th, so I don't care. So that was the decision to go with Vaporeon right there, was for wish. I figured, well, I can either, you know, spin away spikes, or I can, you know, if they do get set up, I can always try to wish pass into them to cover some of the spikes' damage. So that was sort of the thing there. And she would also be the only one who was vulnerable to toxic spikes, so I did definitely want her to have Heal Bell from Heart Gold Soul Silver, just as another nice little cleric there with Wish and Heal Bell to keep everyone healthy, especially since the majority of these guys do not have a reliable recovery move, Gliscor being the only one, and Empoleon certainly wishing he had a real one, as well as Magnezone, especially after I decided to go with Substitute. And I actually wound up wish passing into Crashman quite a bit too, just to give him some additional, you know, hits with his Life Orb. So Splashmoon probably wound up being MVP. She was sort of the backbone of the whole team. Once she went down, just bad stuff happened. So I've already talked about her 2 clerical moves. So moving on to her attack, you know, Ice Beam's certainly tempting, and certainly would have been good in a lot of scenarios, but ultimately I couldn't argue with just the stab surf. You know, just there for stab. So that left her 4th move in question. And I think originally I had her plan to use Yawn, and in fact I think I actually bred her with Yawn, in fact. But then I remembered, oh wait a minute, I want to use Yawn on Empoleon, so I don't want to have 2 guys with Yawn. On top of that, I'm setting up Toxic Spikes, so, you know, Yawn's really only going to be there for guys who are immune to Toxic, or Toxic Spikes anyway. So, you know, I don't really want to be having that. I've already got some pseudo-hazing in the form of Yawn, but I want some real pseudo-hazing on this team, so that was why I ended up going with Roar. Also, you know, I got Spikes, or Toxic Spikes, Stealth Rock, you know, Roar is just going to be a nice thing, because I know Vaporeon, it can come into quite a bit of things, and they want to try to switch out on it to something to beat it. So Roar is a pretty nice move on there, and isn't, I don't think, terribly expected on Vaporeon. One move that I certainly wished I had in almost every fight was Protect. Wish Protect is just so good, but at this point in the team, I looked over and I realized, you know, I don't really keep up with exactly what's in what tier, but I'm pretty sure most of these guys are OU, so if I'm using, you know, mostly OUs on this team, you know, I don't want to go with a completely, you know, super standard Wish Protect set. So that was one of the things that played into the decision to leave off Protect. In retrospect, I probably should have had Protect anyway and just said screw that whole notion, but you know, Roar certainly came in handy in a lot of situations. It was I don't regret putting Roar on there. I just wish I had another move slot to put Protect on there. So one thing to note about her is her relaxed nature. That is pretty much due entirely to how freaking annoying it is to breed a female Eevee with the correct nature. So I finally got a relaxed one that I could lock into for RNG, and I was like, okay, you know what, screw it, we're just gonna go with this relaxed guy. If I want to change it later, I can. And I also eventually just got fed up. Her HP IV is not maxed, it's 27, which consequently made her the amount of EVs I invested into her HP a little bit lower, but come on, it's a Vaporeon, it's already got, you know, plenty of HP, you know, what's a couple of HP points lost? You know, I don't think, you know, damage variation is going to matter more than that anyway. So this was probably the worst as far as IVs and EVs go. Probably the worst one on the team, but certainly a lifesaver in a ton of circumstances. And also I believe she's one of the slowest. I believe she's the slowest on the team. That was another thing I considered at the end was, maybe I want to rebreed her and see if she can outspeed something. But I looked at like what's around there, and honestly there was nothing I really wanted to put any speed EVs into. So ultimately Relaxed ended up being just fine. Certainly Bold objectively is the better nature for her, but whatever. It ended up being fine as it was. So let's see, and that I believe will cover the entire team. So we've got. Let's switch into an overview and some closing statements now. Alright, so, I'm not going to lie to you. My experience with this team was overall not that great. It was, it's certainly a very defensively oriented team, and I thought originally I would kind of really like that, with being able to keep guys alive, but I just found it so frustrating that I could not kill this guy. Like, as soon as they sent him out, I realized, oh, I can't kill that guy. I can't win the game. In some cases I was eventually able to kill that guy by hook or by crook, but it was just so annoying knowing that I really can't kill that guy, or else Crashman is the only guy who can kill that guy. If Crashman goes down, I can't kill that guy. So that was just, I had so much distrust in this team. They didn't really let me down too often, but and a lot of the losses that I had, they were like, let me not understate here that the losses in all the games I played with this team were all pretty darn good games. I was kind of in them the whole time. I never got 6-0 leadoff swept or anything crazy like that. I was able to stick with it and make a game of it. So that was always a good thing for this team. But also I knew that there were going to be some threats right from the beginning. I guess first and foremost is Starmie, one of the premier users of Bolt Beam. Was going to be able to take out pretty much anybody on the team. I have no guy who resists all three of those moves, counting Surf as the third one. Splash Woman can take on two of them, Magnet Man can take on two of them, but all three, if a Starmie runs all three, like all three plus Rapid Spin, it's just going to be an offensive force against the team, and I knew that was going to be a huge problem. Somewhat along the same lines, with a lot more bulk and a lot harder to kill, would be Zapdos. I carry exactly one ice move on the entire team, and my guy who's there to break walls, if it's a Wally Zapdos, well, his main moves for dealing damage are resisted by fighting, or resisted by flying, rather. So Zapdos I knew was going to be a big problem as well. With Thunderbolt, it can certainly take out Empoleon and Splash Woman, and with Heat Wave, it can take out Magnezone, and certainly Lucario without any difficulty whatsoever. And then if it's got HP Ice as well, just those three moves, bam, there goes Gliscor and Nidoqueen as well. So many Pokemon on this team, I felt like, if they have this one guy, since this team is not speedy whatsoever, the fastest guy is a wall-breaking Lucario. This team should be so easy to beat if you just have a fast guy who has those three super effective moves against the whole team. It should be so easy to beat. Another guy who was a big threat, although not quite to the extent of the previous two, was Infernape, certainly with Fire being able to take out this, with 4 of these guys being Steel type, although one not really counting on his type weaknesses to really matter, although I did certainly rely on Crashman's resistances a couple of times to switch into some ice punches and stuff like that and try to get some offensive initiative. But I knew that Infernape was going to be a pretty big problem. The guys who can take the fighting attacks don't necessarily appreciate the fire. Tron probably being the #1 Pokemon I could use against him, but Tron at the same time I was expecting to already have her be half dead by the time an Infernape comes in. And another one of those situations where, wow, I wish I had Earthquake, because that would have been so much better against Infernape. Splash Woman was usually my answer to Infernape in the couple matches that I did face it, and it did pretty well. Obviously weak to some Thunder Punch and not really so much Grass Knot due to her weight. But she was she was another reason that I put her on the team to begin with, was for the purpose of Ape. I knew that Ape was going to tear apart the team if I did not have somebody to you know, mitigate those hits and kill back with Surf after taking a close combat, stuff like that. But I knew Ape was just going to be a big problem. And another guy that I have almost infamously got trolled by G-Man with, which would be Lantern, the guy I passed over to pick Magnezone on the team. Also does extremely well. I don't pack any Earthquake on this entire team. I don't pack any HP Grass because I chose not to use that. So I kinda have nothing to do against Lantern, except for hope that I can get him Toxic Spiked and hope that he doesn't have Heal Bell, and just eventually just wear him down. Crashman probably would be the guy to go to there, but Crashman also at the same time couldn't really switch in. Unless I could like somehow predict a Heal Bell or something like that, and you know, Crashman being primarily special for his bigger hitting move, and Lantern being especially defensive primarily, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to one-hit KO it certainly. So it would already have to be weakened on top of that. So I knew like anytime Lantern came in, it was going to be a big problem for me. Thankfully, I don't think I ever faced it. So that was breath of relief there, especially after that game against G-Man kind of showed off, hey guys, use Lantern against Cooper, it will completely troll him. Thankfully no one brought it. So a couple of other guys who were really difficult to take down, certainly Gastrodon. If you guys have watched the Breeding Grounds podcast where we gushed about Gastrodon for quite a while, I believe it was Makar used Gastrodon against me, and definitely did its job. I did have Empoleon with Grass Knot to attempt to try to take it out, but that game's going to be a fun one to watch, maybe, if you like Stall Wars between Empoleon and Gastrodon. But, you know, it was one of those things where, if I had HP Grass on Magnezone, that was one of those times where I really wished I had HP Grass on Magnezone. Lots of fun switches and stuff in that game. But let's see, I think that pretty much covers the threats that I kind of knew going in, and I'm trying to think if there were any other guys that really gave me problems. None come to mind. So I guess now some announcements as to how this series is going to be done. So one of the things complicating this series and really kind of making it not as good as I originally wanted to be was sort of the end of the semester, you know, oh, hey, here's a semester project, which of course, you know, in great computer science tradition, turns into oh, here's a project that I do in about 5 days. So those 5 days happened to come kind of at the end of the semester when I was sort of planning on having, you know, 15 to 20 battles with this team, and I think I wound up having a grand total of 10, which was way less than I wanted to have, but like I said, the ones I had were pretty good. Also, for the first 3, I was doing some testing for the team, and you know, trying to confirm that a couple of the last-minute move decisions, like Magnet Man with Rest or Substitute, Shade Man, I heavily considered throwing Toxic on one of instead of one of his 2 attacking moves, and maybe changing out Roar and just confirming that was going to be what I wanted to go with on Splash Woman. And well, by that point it was too late for Tron, but you know, just those 3 guys, confirming those were the moves I wanted to use. So what I ended up doing actually was going on Cerebi, using my Lock Platinum file, and just asking for battles there. And you know, I was fully expecting to just get some battles versus some nubs, you know, but surprisingly enough, the games I had from there were actually pretty darn good. I ended up losing, I think, one of those, but that was because of I let him bring a guy I probably shouldn't have, but at that point I just didn't care. You'll see which one that one is. That should be the second one. So the first 2 games are going to be on Platinum, which that was also nice because I've never, I don't think, uploaded any Platinum battles using Platinum before on this channel. I do have one or two from Soul Silver against like that I did in any real life events where I had to have the flat battle rule for level 50 all or level 50 round down. So some Platinum stuff, I thought that would be a nice thing to just throw up here since it's usually all Diamond. And I believe also I got one of them on PBR, which was pretty nice. Rarely do I ever get to do a PBR battle, and I think I was actually able to record that one in HD, so all you HD freaks out there can get excited for the PBR game. And also because of the way the semester sort of ended, I originally planned to have all these and then narrate them before I kind of came home. Well, that didn't actually happen, so I decided, you know, I'm going to take a page out of Kowalski's book. No, not Pokésav. And we're going to play music over these and do something that Xerxes did in his one of his comeback videos, sort of, which was when he didn't have access to Movie Maker. Just play some music in the background and narrate with annotations. So I kind of like those videos. It was you know, a nice little change of pace, and given the circumstances, I think it should be it's something I haven't done too much of. I think I did it one time with the Adventures of Phantom Coordinator 128. If you want to look up that video, it was pretty funny. That pertains to the Tournament of Gracedias, which is also the reason why I'm banned from hosting any further tournaments. For those of you who aren't already aware of that. But yeah, so these vids are gonna have I don't know what kind of music they're gonna have. I have some things in mind, but you know, we'll have hopefully some fitting music, and they're gonna be narrated with annotations instead. So hopefully that'll be, you know, something a little bit different. And as far as will I ever make another team of 6 again, I don't know. One of the things that I did not like about this team, you know, just as a team, was that you know, normally I just throw 6 guys together and go out there and try to have fun. With this team of 6, I actually was trying to win games. You know, ordinarily I'll, you know, sort of put the game on the line if I can do something cool or special. But with this team, I didn't want to do that. I actually wanted to try to, you know, play ruthlessly and try to win all these games, unless the game was clearly out of hand, you know, in which case I said, you know, whatever, let's just do something funny or cool. But that was something I kind of regretted doing, was just, you know, hardcore playing to win. And that's certainly a thing that's going to come up with any team I do. But as far as this team in and of itself, I just felt like, you know, defense is great, but as I already mentioned, I just had so much trouble killing things. So if I ever have another team of 6, it is certainly going to be, I don't want to say an offensive team, but it's definitely going to be a lot more offensive and have more than one guy who's capable of killing things. so that if I do lose that one guy, I can still, you know, try to, you know, eliminate the other 6 guys on their side. So that's something I'm definitely going to be doing in the future. If I ever make another team at all, I'm frankly just content to you know, just keep doing what I've been doing, and, you know, picking 6 guys that I want to use and just go with that. That seems to work out a lot better for me. It also seems like I win a lot more when I do that too. But anyway, so just another note. There's still not going to be any 5th gen teams. No, we're not going to do that. In the event that Comic-Con does have a 5th gen tournament, I might make a team for that on White, but that's not, you know, that doesn't count as a Wi-Fi team. So my statement of never doing Black-White on Wi-Fi still stands. If real life tournaments don't count, and on top of that, real life 5th gen is actually just fine. It fixes the leveling problem and the team reveal problem too. So it's like local wireless, perfect. Wi-Fi, not so much. But anyway. That's a little bit of an unnecessary spiel on this team, but I think that will pretty much wrap it up. So these vids should be going up about once every 2 days. I might skip some days. There should be, I believe, 10 battles in this series. The first 3 against people from Cerebi, and the last 7 or 8 against some guys that we know from TPX. And unfortunately, I'm just going to go ahead and say no, Xerxes did not get to be a part of this. We never got to arrange a time. But a couple of my old friends from BG Chat got to be a part. Also, regretfully, Cayman, you didn't get to play this team. I might actually want to make another team just to play you with, so that you can be in on a series as well at some point. And also one thing that I want you guys to keep in mind as you're watching, if possible, I'd like for you to like pick which one of these battles, these next 10-11 battles that are in this series. Trying to vote on which one you think it was the best overall battle. You know, whether I won or lost, I don't care. Don't care anymore anyway. But I want to see which one people thought was the best one. Certainly, there's going to be a lot of stalling in all these battles, so I understand if people want to like skip ahead and not watch every last move. That's also another contributing reason to why I didn't want to narrate these. It's just going to be a little bit of a pain for me to narrate 10 battles at this point in time, so that's why we're going to be doing annotations. But yeah, so vote for your favorite battle. Just kind of keep that in mind as you watch these over this winter holiday, and happy whatever it is you celebrate. Hope you enjoy this winter series, and we'll be getting back to normal once this series ends, sometime around January 9th or 10th, when my school plays in a national championship game. That's such a load of crock. But anyway, so happy time. Enjoy this winter series, and I'll see you guys back for more narrated stuff in mid-January. Until then, later days.